All right, last official topic before we do a draft of the day.
Okay.
I want to talk about, I have a fascination with doing video game content, but I don't want to do the same old shit because my life is not hardcore video games, though I keep up to date with video game news and video game stuff, and I like to talk about video games. So instead of like what is plastered all over the internet, the like what is the best game or what game is coming out next month, I want to do more like deep isn't even good, like casual conversation, like metaphorical questions about video games, and just use kind of video games as a loose guide to guide the conversation. And basically, like this week I want to talk about what video game would you want to see made into a movie. Now, I want to preface this because when I go to the Discord, this is not I want each person who talks to be a personal list of what you want to see. It's not what video games do you think would make the best movies.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think there's probably 10 lists on the internet right now that have the same 10 games.
Yeah.
Where they talk. I want you to go from your experience, like the games that you would want to see made into a movie.
Okay.
You want to start or you want me to start?
Yeah, I'll tell you my top one. My top one's
your biggest.
A Far Cry. Was it 5?
Far Cry 5 is your favorite game.
Yes, it's my favorite
and it's got a good story. So when I was sitting down to make my list, Far Cry kept popping up in my head, but I feel like this is my problem. And you know I'm going to shit on everything. But I feel like if you look hard enough, that there's probably a movie that has that premise.
Well, I'm sure, but I need it to follow the Far Cry story.
You want it to be that exact?
Yes.
But I mean, you don't think there's a movie that's like based in, because that game's based in like Montana with a cult leader and like a revolution building around that? You don't think that movie already exists, or you
I
need
want
to be
it
like
to be
those
exactly like the
characters.
game, those characters, those names, like it's going to happen, and I need it in real life. That's what I want.
Okay. I mean, devil's advocate here. Like, isn't the Far Cry games are pretty much a movie, though? Like, when a game is so linear like Far Cry, isn't... So, I mean, it's a movie. If you just play that game straight through and don't fuck around with side quests, you're essentially getting a movie. That's my only problem. I get, like, I understand. I'm okay with the choice. I just, like, as far as I go, I think that is already a movie to me. My first choice would be Zelda.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Only because, like, I think the opportunity that Zelda presents, first off, like, Far Cry already has a realistic aesthetic. So that like world's already fleshed out. Whereas Zelda is always kind of a cartoon, and there's been lots of different interpretations of that. And it's at one point someone like a fan made a trailer for like a Zelda movie or TV show. It was fucking phenomenal.
No, I remember that. I think you showed
like,
it to me and I thought it was pretty cool.
I think that like Zelda opens itself up to like storytelling because there's already like 7 games with solid stories that you could start with, but it's also kind of a never-ending universe that keeps going, right?
That's actually a really good one when you think about that.
It's got magic, which is always kind of a solid, you can play with magic. It's got like big battles. There's tons of different kinds of bad guys. I think visually it's one of the like prettiest worlds because it's kind of fantasy, but it's
like
always
realistic.
been big open big worlds. And I think that like there's a potential for franchise building in the sense of like the Zelda universe has so many interesting characters that like Link runs into, and there's been through lines in other games that you could make multiple movies, not just about Link or Zelda or Ganon. You could make movies about side characters and have a whole like Nintendo fleshed out universe as far as Zelda goes.
I think that's actually a really good point.
Some of the other ones I had, Sea of Thieves.
That would be a good one. There's
so much lore in that game. And I think that sometimes it's funny because you chose such a linear story-driven game, whereas I think some of the games that make the best opportunity for a movie would be a game that doesn't like Sea of Thieves is just a multiplayer experience, and then there's little bits of lore put around. So it's basically a sandbox of toys and characters to create stories with.
True. And it would be cool just to kind of see that world made into something that you could live through.
It's a fairly fleshed out world, like with islands and characters and different, like it's got a map and it's got a story on like how it came. So I think that's a good one. I also had Grounded.
Okay.
Which is another, like when I talk about.
But isn't Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and stuff just
very
that?
Very much. But I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is so far removed from where we are now that I think it would feel fresh.
Yeah.
A game based on the idea that like 4 kids get shrunk down and they've got to battle enemies. It may make for like a better like animated Netflix style show, which I think
it would be cool.
I think we had talked about one time that there was a rumor they're making a Grounded show. So maybe that's already in the works.
Yeah.
High on Life, which is the Rick and Morty guy who made the game where the guns talk.
Yeah.
That would just, I think, like we talk about not having enough raunchy comedy movies.
That one would be funny.
That could be kind of a comeback of comedy. I have Watch Dogs, which is in line with Far Cry. There's probably a movie that follows the idea of like these hackers who are creating an organization to take down something bigger. I just can't off the top of my head think about what that is. And then as far as like animated movies go, I'd like to see Luigi's Mansion.
Mario Party was on my list.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
Or like Mario Kart would have been cool too. Like any of the Mario sagas would be cool.
I think
I know there's a Mario movie.
And I think we're probably headed into, like, if the Mario movie does well, we're probably headed into a world where we get all these Mario style movies.
Yes.
But I thought a Punch Out movie would be fun.
Oh, is that the one where I couldn't get past the first level?
Yeah, it's a boxing movie with like over the top characters.
Yeah.
And like a small boxer. I think that could be made into a pretty cool and fun movie.
For sure.
You have any other ones?
I had The Division. I mean, but those are just games that I like that I'd like to see.
So you're basically
the Far Cry series for me, The Division, those are just ones that I would find fun.
So basically you're pulling from Ubisoft, which those games are essentially movies.
Yeah. But I just want to see them in reality.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the Division is like dystopian cities and I'm sure if you look hard enough, those movies exist somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, not off the top of my head, but yeah, I think that those movies exist in some form or fashion.